You had absolutely no right to destroy that equipment. That camera was HOA property, installed under my authority, and you deliberately destroyed it. I will be pursuing every legal option available to me starting today. You have 14 days to pay, or I will take this further. Homeowners Association President Whifford Croft stood at the front door of 44, Cedarwood Lane, demanding compensation for what she claimed was destroyed HOA property, a hidden camera she had personally installed inside the homeowner's living room without his knowledge or consent while he was overseas. She told him that if he failed to pay $2,500 in damages within 14 days, she would file a lien against his deed with the county recorder's office and follow it with a civil lawsuit that would haunt him for years. She spoke with complete confidence, right there on the doorstep of a man who had just discovered she had been secretly recording the inside of his home for 3 weeks. What she didn't know was that the homeowner had already contacted his attorney before she had even finished her first sentence. The fabricated gas leak she had used to obtain access to his house keys was already under investigation by the county sheriff's office, and the federal wiretapping charge, the unlawful entry charge, and the civil lawsuit being prepared against her were all going to make her demand for a $2,500 look like the least embarrassing thing she had done that month. Michael Lewis, 39, a supply chain manager for a logistics firm based out of San Antonio, had lived at 44 Cedarwood Lane in the Pinehurst Commons subdivision of New Braunfels, Texas, for 3 years. Pinehurst Commons sat in Como County, a middle-class neighborhood filled with brickfront homes, wide, clean sidewalks, and the kind of quiet streets where neighbors trusted each other enough to share spare keys. Michael had bought his home after years of renting and had maintained it carefully without complaint or incident from the day he moved in. He was organized, methodical, and not the kind of person who misplaced things or left problems unresolved. His relationship with Whifford Croft, however, had been tense almost from the beginning. Whifford, 55, had been the HOA president of Pinehurst Commons for 7 years and had developed a particular focus on Michael that went far beyond normal enforcement. In his 3 years on Cedarwood Lane, she had issued violation notices against his property for grass length, driveway cracks, a garden hose left coiled in the side yard, and even a motion sensor light she claimed was too bright for community standards. None of those fines had any real basis in the bylaws, and Michael had challenged every single one in writing without paying $1. To Whifford, that made him the most non-compliant resident in Pinehurst Commons. To Michael, it simply meant he was the only one paying close enough attention to realize when she was making things up. In late June, Michael traveled overseas for a work assignment expected to last 4 weeks. Before leaving, he gave a spare key to his neighbor, Samson Harper at number 46, a retired schoolteacher who had lived on Cedarwood Lane for 11 years and whom Michael trusted completely. He told Samson the key was strictly for emergencies and left for the airport feeling confident about the arrangement. 10 days into his trip, his phone rang. It was Samson. There had been a call from Whifford Croft warning about a possible gas leak at 44 Cedarwood Lane. She claimed HOA maintenance needed immediate access to inspect the property. Samson, acting in good faith and genuinely concerned, handed over the key. By the time Michael called the gas company directly to confirm, there was no record of any leak detection or service call on Cedarwood Lane. None at all. Michael made a note of it in his phone, finished his trip, and returned home. Before we go any further, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. We love seeing where everyone is tuning in from. And if you believe that faking an emergency to enter someone's home while they're overseas is one of the most serious violations of trust an HOA president can commit, hit that like and subscribe button and join us here on HOA Unhinged. Michael arrived home from his overseas trip on a Thursday evening. He unpacked, had dinner, and went to bed. Everything felt normal. Nothing looked out of place. Over the next few days, he settled back into his routine, go to work, checking his mail, catching up on everything he had missed while he was away. He didn't think much about the gas leak call at first. There had been no leak, no damage, and the house was exactly as he had left it. He assumed it had been a misunderstanding and pushed it to the back of his mind. 6 days after returning home, he found it. He was rearranging books on the shelf in his living room on a Sunday evening when he noticed something that didn't belong. A small device tucked behind a decorative item on the third shelf, positioned at an angle that gave it a clear view across the entire room. He picked it up and turned it over in his hands. It was a compact wireless camera, the kind designed to record continuously and transmit footage remotely. It had been placed deliberately, carefully, by someone who knew exactly what they were doing and exactly where to position it for maximum coverage. Michael stood in the middle of his living room for a long moment, holding the camera. He thought about the gas leak call. He thought about Samson handing over the key in good faith. He thought about the 6 days he had already spent back in his house, completely unaware that every moment of his life inside it had been recorded. Then he walked into the kitchen, grabbed a hammer, and destroyed the camera on his back porch that same night. The next morning at 8:14 a.m., Whifford Croft was at his front door. She wore her usual press blouse, her HOA lanyard hanging around her neck, clipboard tucked under her arm. She started speaking before he had even fully opened the door. She told him he had destroyed HOA property, that the camera was a legitimate community monitoring device installed under her authority as president, that she was pursuing both criminal charges and a civil claim of $2,500 against his deed for replacement costs. Community monitoring device, she said, in the tone of someone repeating a line she had practiced carefully without meeting his eyes. Michael looked at her for a long moment without saying a word. Then he asked her one question. He asked which section of the Pinehurst Commons HOA bylaws authorized the installation of recording devices inside a private residence. Whifford told him she didn't need a specific bylaw, that her authority as president covered community safety measures across the entire subdivision. Michael nodded once, told her his attorney would be in touch, and closed the front door. He was on the phone before he even reached the kitchen. Michael's attorney, a civil litigation specialist named Gerald OAE based in San Antonio, reviewed the situation in a single meeting and told him plainly, this was an HOA dispute. It was a federal crime. Installing a hidden recording device inside a private home without the owner's knowledge or consent violated the Federal Wiretapping Act under 18 U.S.C. Section 2511, a statute carrying criminal penalties of up to 5 years per violation, regardless of what was recorded or what position the person held. Gerald filed a federal complaint that same week and contacted the Como County Sheriff's Office with a full written account of the fabricated gas leak, the unauthorized entry, and the discovery of the camera. 2 days later, Samson Harper gave a recorded statement. He described the call from Whifford in detail, the urgency in her voice, the exact wording about the gas leak, and how she insisted immediate access was necessary to protect the property. He had acted in complete good faith. The sheriff's office pulled phone records and confirmed that no gas leak report had been filed with any utility provider or emergency service in New Braunfels on the date Whifford made the call. The leak had never existed. The call had been made for one reason only. Then Gerald obtained the full HOA bylaws for Pinehurst Commons from the Como County Clerk's office, all 47 pages, and reviewed every section for any language authorizing interior access, monitoring, or surveillance. There was nothing, not a clause, not a subsection, not a single sentence that gave Whifford Croft or any board member the right to enter a resident's home or install any device inside it under any circumstance. Whifford had invented that authority the same way she had invented the gas leak. Gerald included both findings in the federal complaint and the civil lawsuit filing and submitted them the same morning. That afternoon, Whifford's attorney called his office. Gerald told him his client was not interested in a conversation. Within 30 days, the Como County District Attorney's Office accepted the criminal referral from the Sheriff's Department and filed charges against Whifford Croft. They were serious, and there were several. Unauthorized entry into a private residence under Texas Penal Code 30.05. Installation of a hidden surveillance device under Texas Penal Code 16.02. And a separate federal wiretapping charge filed concurrently by the FBI field office in San Antonio. Whifford hired a criminal defense attorney the same week. The retainer alone cost her $25,000. Her civil lawsuit against Michael for the destroyed camera was dismissed at the very first hearing. The judge didn't need much time. No court was going to entertain a claim for compensation over a recording device that had been illegally installed inside a private home. Her attorney did not appeal. But Gerald OAE's civil lawsuit against Whifford personally and the Pinehurst Commons HOA Board collectively was a very different matter. It named both parties for unauthorized entry, illegal surveillance, invasion of privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and negligent oversight by a board that had allowed one person to operate without accountability for 7 consecutive years. The HOA board's insurance carrier reviewed the filing and immediately began distancing themselves from Whifford's actions. 3 board members resigned within 2 weeks of receiving the lawsuit. The remaining members voted unanimously to remove her as president and hired independent legal counsel to represent the board separately. The civil case settled 8 months later. The amount was never made public, but it covered Michael's legal fees, damages for the period of unlawful surveillance, and a sum that reflected the full severity of what had been done to him. Whifford Croft sold her home on Cedarwood Lane before the criminal case concluded. Michael Lewis changed his locks, installed his own cameras on the exterior of his home, and returned to his normal routine without ever looking over his shoulder again. If this story reminded you that your home is the one place no title, no badge, and no fabricated emergency should ever be allowed to violate, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you've ever felt like your HOA president was crossing lines that had nothing to do with community standards and everything to do with control, drop your story in the comments. We'll see you in the next one, right here on HOA Unhinged.